Hello everybody. Today I want to talk a few minutes, actually it's a bit of a longer video, about the very high rejection rate we're currently seeing with regards to permanent residence based on financial independence. This is a very unfortunate development. I think, at least what we see in our practice, and I spoke to various other immigration companies, they see exactly the same. I would estimate the current rejection rate is 70 to 80% of all applications for permanent residence based on financial independence, which are coming back, are rejected. There are 2-3 basic reasons or reoccurring reasons. It mostly always has something to do with the lack of the ability of the Home Affairs Department to verify the availability of the funds, or the funds itself, or the net worth. I will go into this a little bit deeper. Why we think it's really unfortunate is that these people who are entitled by net worth to apply for permanent residence in South Africa tend to be obviously spending a lot of money in South Africa, tend to be actually mostly richer than the 12 million required, and usually do not use any of the social systems in South Africa, and are also not a danger really of costing the government any money. So ideally you want to attract them. The government wants to attract them. The legislation wants to attract them. I think there's room, potentially to fund certain projects the Department of Home Affairs wants to do. Now, I'm not an expert now in internal finances. Can you use income from one little pot for other pots? But I'm sure there is a way around this. Ring fence it. Home Affairs wants to embark on massive IT upgradings and structural changes. Potentially this could be a contribution, right? The applicant pays 120,000 Rand when they receive the permanent residence, so it's not an application fee, it's a kind of a success fee. But I think a lot of people would actually apply even more for this category, and there's room even to increase the fees slightly, maybe not dramatically, but I think 140,000, 160,000 people would pay if their permanent residence is processed within, let's say, 12 months or 10 months. I think this could be a real game changer. Now, coming now to the rejection reasons. So the rejection reasons is mostly that Home Affairs goes through various process working on a permanent residence, and 5 or 6 stages. And one of the stages, they obviously want to really reconfirm that the assets the client confirmed when they applied still has this net worth, right? And due to data protection laws, this is rather difficult. So companies like ours and other immigration companies as well actually sometimes include a chartered accountant certificate in the application, which by law is not required anymore. It used to in the old days, but it's not required anymore. But we do it because we felt, well, this adds some value to the application. Now, sometimes Home Affairs then reaches out to the CA and say, well, they don't respond. The CA says, well, they never reached out to me, so there's a problem. In the old days, also Home Affairs tried to reach out to the banks overseas. Sometimes they introduced then a consent form, but the banks don't really reply when third parties really inquire. So the confirmation during the application process of the availability of the funds or the net assets is a real problem. So, and we see, as I said, 70 to 80% rejection rate. What I was thinking is to obviously, I want to not just criticize, I want to come with some suggestions and potential solutions. The one is obviously to officially really introduce the CA letter again, right? The question is always these days, Home Affairs, rightfully so, because to submit fraudulent documents is very easy these days. To manufacture documents these days is super easy. So there is a certain mistrust on Home Affairs side regarding the submitted documents. But this is a problem any immigration authority in any country of the world faces. So how do you overcome that, right? And Home Affairs itself has overcome this already with the trusted employer scheme. So they said, well, certain employers of a certain size, they tend to be compliant with other laws. So we trust them first. They need to comply, and if we do our audits and checks in, we will check that they are compliant, but we give them our trust first. Therefore, they have to bring less documents. So that's one way of doing it, okay? And how do you do this with private clients? Very difficult. So there's one or two ways. You could obviously say, well, if the applicants come from certain countries, visa exempt tend to be, then maybe we trust the documents more. Now, that obviously gives advantages to certain passport holders and disadvantages to certain other passport holders. Now, that's a political decision if you want to do that. You're already doing it with the visa exempt and visa requirements, but maybe you don't want to do this for permanent residents. That's a political decision or a legislative decision. The other thing is to introduce maybe a regulated profession which has a high ethical and professional standard. Now, the chartered accountants in South Africa is regularly ranked among all the highest in the world when it comes to chartered accountants auditing profession. So maybe reintroduce the requirement of the chartered accountant. If the chartered accountant confirms that these funds were available or are available, then maybe Home Affairs must just trust that judgment, because there is somebody who professionally is regulated, who can't lie or should not lie. Now, it's not bulletproof, but no system is bulletproof, but that's at least something, all right, to attract these people. You could potentially also say, well, if we are getting to the stage of processing, maybe we need to request a new chartered account certificate. Difficult, because again, what happens is Home Affairs says they're reaching out, they don't. Maybe they try. I'm emailing high-ranking officials at Home Affairs regularly. I don't even get an answer. None. Like, no acknowledgement. And everybody who watches these videos has the same experience. So, maybe their IT systems, maybe their firewalls are just, I don't know. There's something not really working. Maybe one needs to automate it. Move away from email. Automate it over the cloud. Reach out through the cloud to the CA. I mean, the CA letter has a contact email. You can track if somebody opens the link. You can track this technology. They upload it to the cloud. So move away from email, move away from the discretion of the people and of the Home Affairs officials, and really move to technology solutions, I would suggest. But the idea is really that Home Affairs needs to introduce a trusted level so that they don't have to verify every document, because that's nearly impossible, and it leads to delays, and I think it just empties this very useful category. Another suggestion could also be that you could additionally introduce something to say, well, they have this net worth, that's fine. I mean, for years I've said, well, why must the net worth be all overseas? I mean, you have one house in Munich or in Paris and you meet the requirements. Well, how does this benefit really the country? Maybe there's an additional requirement that at least 2 million rand or 1 million rand in cash must be invested in a South African banking institution. And that's an additional proof that these people at least have enough money to live in South Africa without really costing the country anything, right? So I think there are some ideas, but I would suggest that there's really some urgency because, I mean, this category at the moment is rather difficult. And obviously all these rejections are nonsensical mostly. They will overburden the appeal process. And I foresee that in the appeal process, they're all probably going to be granted because, quite frankly, at least the submissions we do, these clients have much more net worth usually than the 12 million. So I'm very confident that they meet the legal requirements.